High above the earth, flight feels effortless. A metal machine slicing through the sky, suspended between heaven and ground, balanced on nothing but air itself. No roads to guide it, no rails to support it. Only invisible forces, perfectly aligned, holding it aloft in silence. From the cabin window, the world looks peaceful. Clouds drift slowly below. The horizon stretches endlessly. Everything feels calm, controlled, predictable. But this calm is an illusion. Flight is not strength overcoming gravity. It is balance. Fragile, calculated balance. Aircraft do not fly by power alone. They fly because air pressure, speed, temperature, and engineering exist in exact harmony. Every bolt tightened to a precise torque. Every panel shaped for airflow. Every system designed with one assumption in mind, that the atmosphere will behave within known limits. Change that balance, even slightly, and the sky turns from a pathway into a threat. If air pressure in the atmosphere suddenly rises beyond natural limits, the aircraft feels it immediately. Not gradually, not gently, but all at once. The fuselage, engineered to endure only specific forces, begins to compress under an unseen weight. Pressure pushes inward from every direction. Metal panels strain as stress travels across the aircraft's skin. Rivets groan, transferring loads they were never meant to carry. Windows flex, bowing against forces pressing relentlessly from the outside. The aircraft is no longer moving through the air. It is being crushed by it. As the air grows denser, stability begins to disappear. Lift no longer behaves the way pilots expect. The wings, once perfectly tuned to the sky, lose their smooth rhythm with the airflow. Air no longer passes cleanly over their surface. It breaks, separates, turns chaotic. The aircraft begins to shudder. A deep vibration runs through its structure. It trembles, not violently at first, but persistently, subtly. A warning written in motion. The aircraft struggles to remain aligned in a sky that no longer follows familiar rules. What once felt smooth now feels resistant. Every correction demands more force from the control surfaces. Every maneuver feels heavier, slower, less forgiving. The aircraft no longer responds instinctively. It resists. The margin for error narrows with every second, shrinking into something unforgiving and final. Inside the engines, the danger deepens further. Jet engines are not brute force machines built to overpower the air. They are precision systems, delicate, calculated, exact. They exist within narrow tolerances where balance is everything. Too little air, and combustion fails. Too much air, and stability collapses. There is no room for excess. Excessive pressure destroys that balance in moments. Air surges into the engine faster than the system can regulate. Compression stages struggle to maintain order. Flow separates where it shouldn't. Temperatures rise sharply, pushing components toward critical limits. Rotating parts strain under forces far beyond their design envelope. Blades flex microscopically, bending and twisting at thousands of revolutions per minute, fighting physics, friction, and heat all at once. An engine stall becomes possible. A flameout follows close behind. And silence becomes the most terrifying sound an aircraft can face. Because silence means thrust is gone. And without thrust, altitude becomes borrowed time. Speed begins to decay. Options disappear. Time, once abundant, turns hostile. Inside the cockpit, confusion takes hold. Pilots rely on instruments that speak through air pressure, telling them speed, altitude, and rate of climb. But now, those instruments begin to betray their trust. Speed readings disagree. Altitude fluctuates without explanation. Vertical speed oscillates unpredictably. Warning lights flash without context. Alarms overlap, competing for attention in a confined space filled with urgency. The cockpit becomes a storm of information. Too much, too fast, and increasingly unreliable. Screens glow with conflicting data. Needles swing where they shouldn't. Numbers change faster than the human mind can process. Warnings demand attention, but offer no clear answers. The aircraft is speaking, but its language is fractured. Every second demands a decision. Every decision carries consequences that cannot be undone. There is no pause button, no reset, no second attempt. Only judgment made under pressure, while the margin for error collapses. Pilots are trained for failure. They're trained for emergencies that arrive suddenly and without warning. They are trained to remain calm when systems break, when alarms sound, when everything goes wrong at once. Years of training are built around anticipation, discipline, and control. But they are trained for failures that still obey the laws of physics, for skies that behave within known boundaries, not for an atmosphere that turns hostile without warning, not for a sky that bends the rules without explanation, not for conditions that push an aircraft beyond everything it was designed to endure. Outside, the pressure continues to rise. It presses relentlessly against the aircraft's skin, testing every assumption made during design. What was once empty space becomes a crushing force. What was once invisible becomes overwhelming. Inside, the structure approaches its limits. Stress begins to concentrate along seams and joints, the hidden intersections where forces meet, overlap, and multiply. These are the silent battlegrounds of flight. Tiny fractures begin to form, invisible at first, silent, undetectable by sensors, but growing with every passing moment. Panels deform under loads they were never meant to carry. Materials fatigue, losing strength with each vibration. Fasteners loosen under relentless strain, no longer holding with absolute certainty. The aircraft's strength, what was once trusted without question, now begins to fail, piece by piece, system by system, layer by layer. Strength does not vanish all at once. It erodes, quietly, predictably. A tolerance exceeded here, a margin lost there. What once absorbed stress now transfers it elsewhere, passing the burden along the structure like a warning no one can stop. What was once a single, unified machine, a carefully balanced whole, becomes a collection of stress components, each fighting its own battle against physics. Each joint carries more than it was designed to bear. Each surface feels forces it was never meant to experience. One failure increases the load on the next. A weakened panel shifts stress to a neighboring frame. A compromised joint amplifies vibration elsewhere. A system struggling to compensate only accelerates the damage. A chain reaction begins, quiet, invisible, and unstoppable. In the most extreme scenario, recovery is no longer possible. The structure reaches a point where resistance ends. Not with a warning, not with drama, but with certainty. The airframe gives way. Control surfaces lose effectiveness, no longer biting into the air. Hydraulic pressure fades, flowing where it shouldn't, vanishing where it's needed most. Feedback disappears. Commands are issued, but nothing responds. The aircraft stops negotiating with the sky. It no longer flies. It falls. The fuselage begins to tear apart in midair. Sections separate under forces too great to contain. Structural paths collapse in sequence, not chaos, but inevitability. Wings twist beyond their limits. Panels peel away as if stripped by the wind itself. Debris is claimed instantly, scattered without mercy, erased from order and purpose. Gravity takes command. There is no recovery from gravity, only acceleration. And the sky, once a symbol of freedom, progress, and human achievement, the sky reveals its true nature. Not cruel, not malicious, not vengeful, simply indifferent. The atmosphere does not judge. It does not react. It does not care who built the machine, how advanced it is, or what dreams it carries inside. It follows its rules, unchanged, unwavering, eternal. There is no drama in physics, no emotion, no mercy, only cause and effect, unfolding with absolute certainty. For every force applied, there's a response. For every limit ignored, a consequence. The universe does not negotiate. In forces, this is the truth of flight. It is not humanity rising above nature. It is humanity working within it. a careful cooperation between human engineering and the atmosphere that surrounds the planet, a fragile agreement written in pressure, balance, and restraint, measured not in hope, but in margins, margins that must be respected. Every second of every flight, every successful journey is proof that this agreement still holds. Every safe landing is a quiet victory, rarely noticed, often taken for granted, and almost never questioned. Millions of flights end without incident, not because they are guaranteed, but because the balance remains intact, because physics continues to behave within limits we understand and choose not to challenge. Airplanes fly only because the sky allows them to, because pressure, physics, and balance remain aligned, because the atmosphere continues to cooperate. But when that agreement is broken, when limits are crossed, when balance is lost, even the most advanced machines humanity has ever built become powerless, stripped of purpose, stripped of control, stripped of meaning, reduced from symbols of progress, of connection, of ambition, to helpless objects, falling through an uncaring sky. Because in the end, before pressure, before physics, before nature itself, human engineering has limits, and flight, for all its wonder, exists only within those limits.